This is Beyond the Clef Summer Quick Notes, and I'm here with my good friend, Dr. Lisa Garner Santa, and she is the flute professor of Texas Tech, and she's going to give you 3 tips to make your flute teaching that much better.
So David, it's so wonderful to be here talking with you today. You've asked me to share a few things that I think could easily help band directors in working with students, and so I've chosen 3 things to share with you that I think are pretty standard and also maybe simple things to think about. The first one is just the placement of the head joint in the flute itself. So very often I'll go in to do a sectional and our flutists will be pulled way, way, way out. Or maybe they'll be pushed all the way in. And so one of the things to consider is that the head joint should really only be pushed or pulled out about 1/4 of an inch. Too much more than that and it impacts the scale of the instrument. So even if it helps their A or their B flat, whatever their tuning note is, to be better in tune, it may destroy the rest of the scale. So as an example, I'm pulled out about 1/4 of an inch right now with my head joint. I'm going to play a D major scale just so that you can hear the scale, and then I'm going to pull way out more than an inch and show you what happens to the scale. Okay, so here's D major. So I'm not having to do crazy gymnastics in order to get my C sharp in tune. My E natural is pretty good. Now I'm going to pull way out because, well, when I took the tuning note, I was really sharp, and so I'm going to just keep pulling out until that note gets in tune. So I'm pulled way out, and I'm going to play the same scale. I'm going to play the first note just to kind of retonicize the D, but then listen intervallically to what that does. Right, so it's a little, maybe it's a quick fix for one note just to pull in or push out, but if a student's pulled out about, I would say 1/4 to 1/2 an inch, that's plenty. Doing more than that, or having to do more than that to be in tune with the tuning note means that there's something more going on. Either the lip plate's placed too high, maybe the teeth are too close together, maybe they're not covering enough of the embouchure hole, something like that. So only about 1/4 of an inch pulled out with the head joint to the flute. Number 2 is the concept of centering, and this is something that will vary from individual to individual. So I always get asked these questions, okay, what are the top 10 steps to teach flute? And it's really challenging because so much of it relates to the bio-individual and someone's individual embouchure, and in particularly their aperture, the opening in the embouchure. So the first thing that we want to center is the embouchure hole of the lip plate to the aperture, and we want to do that in 3 different planes, right? The vertical, the horizontal, and I guess whatever that would be, the 3rd dimension. So the first thing we're going to check is right to left, and we want to make sure that the opening in the embouchure is centered with the embouchure hole. So if I'm too far right, which is very common because of marching band, students tend to pull back too far right, or just because they're being polite, they want to play behind the person that's next to them, they end up pulling everything right. We get this sort of sound here centered, going to the right, so I'm taking it off center to the right, very sharp and a little bit airy, so bring it back to center, the pitch is a little bit lower, so right to left. The second thing is up and down. So the tendency, because the flute's out to the side and our arms get tired, right, is to drop, right? So that also changes the pitch. So if I'm centered here, you can hear what that does to the pitch. So whether I go too far down or too far up, it makes the flute sharp. If I combine 1 and 2, too far back and too far down, there's your 6th grade sound, right? If I bring it up and forward, that fixes that and sounds a lot better. So right to left, up and down, and then front to back. So what I see more than anything is that students are pulled too far back for some of those same reasons related to marching band or being polite. So the steps that I take them through to help with this. Put your head joint on your left shoulder, bring your flute up parallel to the ground, bring the lip plate up to your chin, aim down the flute like if it were straw and you were gonna spit ice at somebody across the cafeteria. So you're aiming down, this gets the flute up high enough, and then with as little movement as possible, you're going to bring the lip plate to the crook of the chin, just below the red of the lip. So the flute's going to go right, the head's going to go left, and there you are, boom. So if I release my head, you can see how far in front of the body my arms are. This is not marching band position and could be really maybe challenging visually to get everybody doing the same thing. So I think maybe that's why it hasn't made its way into that field. So what I teach students is you're going to have your marching band position, but then you're going to have your concert band position. So let that be much more forward and bring your head a little more to the left rather than doing this, which creates a lot of tension here. All right, so we're going to do that. So that's 1 and 2. So 1/4 of an inch out, centering, right, left, up and down, front to back. Okay, the third thing that I would like to just put out there as a possibility is the way that we align the head joint to the body. And there are different schools of thought on this, but I want to make my case here. So often, I know the way that I was taught and the way a lot of students are taught is to align the embouchure hole with the center of the top key. Okay. Then the second thing that we're taught is to keep the keys parallel to the ground. So if we keep the keys parallel to the ground with that alignment, I'm going to play my B flat major scale again. So I'm bringing this up into the crook of my chin, and I'm really going to do my best to keep my keys parallel. This is the sound that I get. And I'm doing my best embouchure. I'm not trying to make the sound bad on purpose. I'm not covering enough of the embouchure hole. So that has that really young sort of 6th grade sound to it. So if I'm taking private lessons or I'm hearing other good flute teachers, I'm listening to things on YouTube, I'm hearing great flutists, and I begin to copy that, then because I'm a good student, I line up this way because my teachers told me to, and then I start experimenting because I hear a type of flute sound that I'm wanting to emulate. And what ends up happening is this. The keys begin to roll back, and the left arm begins to kind of jut out a little bit, and we end up with something like this. So you can hear the difference in sound, some much better quality of sound, but now I've compromised so many things about my hand position. I've lost any sort of vertical support that there is for the flute. If I let go of my left hand, the flute's just going to fall. There's nothing holding it up. When before, the keys were more like this, I had at least a little bit of something. So what I suggest that students do is that they take the outer edge of the embouchure hole, so the part that they're blowing against, the part that's away from them, and they center that with the front key. This is not to have them roll in more or to cover. I think that's the greatest fear, is that students are going to end up with this covered, stuffy sound. But actually it's going to release some tension in this left side of the body, give their flute some vertical support so the right hand doesn't have to work so hard to hold the flute up. It's going to release tension. It's going to make their sounds bigger. So those are my 3 sorts of ideas that I think could help flutists sound a lot better and play better in tune.
Thanks for watching. For more great information and in-depth interviews, visit us at beyondtheclef.com and subscribe. We'll be doing some more interviews on Friday and Saturday at the Summer Music Conventions live from the Director's Choice booth. Click on the link for our guest lineup and we'll see you there.